And unbelievably, part of the government's proposal is after they privatise the visa processing system, there's a second stage, which is to privatise all the citizenship processing system. Now, I just want to really call this out for what it is. It's an old Conservative government playbook straight out of the UK, and it's failed, as the member for Scullin pointed out. First we cut. So this government's cut $180 million in funding since 2016-17 from the Department of Home Affairs and thousands of staff. So first we cut, then we create a crisis, then we say, well, the only way to fix this crisis, look at these terrible public servants, they're not processing the visas. We'll privatise, that's the answer. And so right now there's a $1 billion tender, $1 billion tender sitting in the department, sitting with ministers, being considered. Of course, some of the ministers have to recuse themselves, as the member for Scullin said, because the Liberal Party mates are the tenderers. But thousands of jobs would be cut from Home Affairs and these profit contracts given to Liberal Party mates to process the applications to determine who comes into this country. If there's one thing that should be done by public servants in the public interest in a Department of State, surely it's the assessment and processing of visa and citizenship applications. It determines who comes into the country. It determines who can stay in the country. It is extremely private information. Now, we know it's private and commercially valuable because both of the consortiums of the tenderers have travel insurance agents and health insurers. And you can imagine it. You start filling out the form and you say, I'm going to stay for 12 months, and up starts popping the ads because they're sucking your data out into private companies just for dealing with the government. Can't wait for your privatisation of Centrelink. We've already started that. That's another debate. 5,000 staff out now. Now, the government will tell us that we have to do it for better service at lower cost. Well, it's true we need better service. As I said, the department is completely broken. The staff satisfaction surveys came out a few weeks ago across 75 public sector agencies in the Commonwealth. Guess which one was number 75? The Department of Home Affairs. The morale in that department under this minister with his dark heart and the secretary, master of the dark arts in the bureaucracy, is at abysmal lows. It is the worst place to work in the Commonwealth. That is absolutely appalling. This is an important Department of State. It didn't used to be like that before this leadership. The government has cut so many staff that the backlogs grow, and the kids of Australian citizens are sitting at home not even able to start school. Now, I referred one of these to the Herald Sun in January, actually in desperation, couldn't get any sense out of anyone else. And the Herald Sun said, yeah, that's terrible, we'll help you. So they went to do a story, and then they rang the department. The department's media person said, thank God, this is terrible. Maybe you guys can get some action. We get these calls all the time. Still, not much happened. Eventually we did get the kids to a school, and I thank the Greek Orthodox school in Oakley that gave them half fees, and that's still going well. It was a really good solution, so thank you to the Herald Sun. But as I said in closing, this is straight out of the failed Conservative playbook. They cut the service to create a crisis. Now, my prediction, this is my prediction, firstly, the private operator will be a government mate, and they'll introduce two fee scales. There'll be higher fees for those who can pay for a premium service and sail through, and other fees for most Australians, like the people in my electorate, who are told by the Liberals just to suck it up harder and wait. Then, over time, once the capability of the public service has been destroyed, and this is a really important part of what they try to do, they destroy the in-house capability. We've seen it with employment programs. There's no one left in the department that knows anything about an employment program. They just administer contracts to pay billions of dollars to private companies that get no one a job. But once the capability in the public sector has been destroyed, then the prices start rising, like we saw in the UK, because the private sector contractors have got a monopoly by then. It's hard to the point of impossible for anyone else to compete. Then there'd be too many upfront costs to the government to later go, well, we got this wrong and insource it, like we're seeing in the UK, and the taxpayer gets royally screwed for decades. And then thirdly, the private operator, you can bet your bottom dollar, will donate generously to the Liberal Party. Now, the evidence for this service model, my concern about the future service model, is firstly, it was reported, publicly reported, that in industry briefings to tenderers, the department noted the potential for offsetting the cost of building a new online platform by providing premium services. This is their plan. And no wonder the minister won't come in here and actually talk about his $1 billion tender to give the department to his Liberal Party mates. No wonder he doesn't want to talk about that, because I know, and every member opposite knows, if you went into your electorates and said, hey, we think we might privatise the processing of visa and immigration and citizenship, is that a good idea? You know the response you would get. Punters in Australia know exactly what privatisation of these public services deliver. They've seen this in electricity, in gas in Victoria. They see it in Centrelink now when no one will answer the phone, and they know what's going to happen if you get away with this. Now that is public service speak in that tenderer briefing for offering 2 different processing streams based on how much applicants are prepared to cough up. And of course, a private operator will follow the incentive, as they should. They're going to chase the higher profits. That's what they'll do. So they'll chase the higher profits on the high service fees and the premium visas, and everyone else will wait down the bottom of the queue. This undermines the integrity of the migration program and creates a 2-class system which is roundly un-Australian and should be rejected. I encourage the government members, the few amongst them who may be prepared to think, have a look at Britain. The Conservative MPs are freaking out about what a mess they've made of this. They're looking at bringing some of this stuff back in-house. Insourcing is now a debate. The company Carillion collapsed in $1 billion tender, leaving the government with a mess of hospitals, prisons, services. And then they decided it was too big to fail. So guess who bailed it out? The poor old taxpayer steps in and pays more than if they'd just run the services properly themselves. The government has to abandon their plans to privatise visa and citizenship processing, and if they don't, then at least have the courage, have the guts, have the decency, find a shred of honesty to come in here and explain what you're doing and be upfront about it instead of hiding from public scrutiny.